Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me. It's a beautiful day here in the wheat belt. Some very welcomed rain, little storms going across, so hopefully it's not going to pour down and soak me. I feel like it'll be okay. It's really quite lovely, very cool, very welcomed by the trees. You can feel them, very alive energy as they're getting a little bit of water. It's been so dry. Anyway, I felt to continue on today, sharing a little more of my experiences working with the kids as a mentor in schools, and sharing an experience with two little guys, a little more feisty, a little more challenging, but these two kids very different and great little guys, probably similar, around 8 years old, I think. Anyway, I got allocated these two boys, half an hour each with them, and one of them, he was quite tall for his age, he was very strong, he was very athletic, and he was a sports guy. He was into all of the sports, he excelled in the sports, but he was having some trouble with his English and maths and some of that basic stuff, and I had him to work with him through some of those things, like some extra help with his maths and his English. And the other little guy, he was probably a little more challenging. He was super bright and so intelligent. He, what was it, year 2 or 3, and he's reading novels. He's well surpassed any of the work that they're doing in the classroom. Super bright. So obviously I didn't need to do any work with him like that, but his social skills were pretty non-existent. He wasn't getting on with other children. He was very impatient and quite arrogant, really, with the teachers, because to him nobody was intelligent enough, nobody could stretch him enough, and he couldn't get enough work that really challenged him. And it was in the time when they were starting to work more with these children and bring in more of the more difficult activities for them. And I think when my kids were at school, they were doing those programs after school to do extra stuff so that it could really keep their interest and allow them to really be challenged and do some of that harder work. Anyway, this little guy was not so impressed and could not understand why I would be working with him. Anyway, I did have some work to do with him. It was more difficult work just so that I could be with him, and part of my role was to talk with him and get him to share and get him to relate and more socialise with him. And he was not impressed, and he also had behavioural issues. Obviously he was very bored, and whatever was happening for him, he wasn't happy. Anyway, I got half an hour with each of them. So the first little guy, the really bright little fella, take him to the library, and really grateful that there was no classes in the library at the time. And so I'd sit with him, and I started to see how he just didn't want to be there, he didn't want to do it, he was starting to play up, and I could see him trying to push my buttons. And the one thing I've learned working with children is it's really about giving them a different experience and responding to them different to what they expect and to what they get when they're pushing people's buttons. And so to respond very differently, and that can be a bit challenging as well. Anyway, I had half an hour with this little guy, and he said, well, what are we doing? Okay, let's do some of this maths, and we can do some colouring. I don't want to do colouring in, why would I want to do that? And anyway, he was not very cooperative in that way. We're in the library, and he decided he didn't want to be there, and he tried all the angles, and I was like, no, we're doing this. He goes, just take me back to the room. I said, I can't really do that because I have a job too, and my job here is to stay with you for half an hour. So we got 20 minutes left. And he then just started to escalate, got loud, and he pushed his chair around, and then he started having a tantrum and screaming and throwing himself around on the floor. And I just didn't budge. I just completely held my cool as if that wasn't happening. And the librarian started to march over, and I put my hand up. No, please just stay back, let me handle this. And if there was children if there was a class in the library, I would have had to take him out, but there's nobody there, so we had all this scope. And so I'm just continuing on with the work. I'm talking to myself about what the work is that I'm looking at, and he's having his tanty on the floor, getting quite loud, and he'd get quiet for a moment, and he's watching me. I could see him, of course, out the corner of my eye watching him, and he'd have a bit of a look. Oh, she's not doing anything. So he was getting a bit curious as to why I wasn't reacting, getting upset with him or taking him back or taking him out or something. Anyway, I'd look at him then, and then he'd go off again. So I'd look back again and continue on. And he would have gone on for maybe 15 minutes. That seems like a long time when the kids are having tanties. And then he'd get up and he'd come over. What are you doing? What are you doing that's so interesting? And plonked himself down. And of course I would do my thing where I pretended I didn't know much about it so that he could step in and do it all. So he went through all of this stuff. We go back now, and then I had the other boy, and he was still quite a strong-natured boy, and he would get very upset with himself. He didn't know how to do the maths, and so I worked with him a little bit. And he too was bored, and he wanted to be outside. So to get him talking, I would talk about his sports, and he told me all about his sport. That was his interest, and then I'd try and do some of the spellings and some of the work around what he was interested in. But he still wasn't quite into it. It was just let's go back. He was not having those strong tantrums and stuff like the other little guy. I had these guys, it must have been a few weeks, and the little guy with the behaviour issues, he settled down. He'd try all different things, and I wouldn't budge. So he got into the swing of it a bit, and he was better. He'd try things on when the teachers were there, or if there was children in the library during our session, he'd try different things on and just see how I responded. And really with the kids like that, it's just giving them a different experience of not letting my buttons be pushed and just responding differently to them. It gets their curiosity going, and they can really have shifts in that. Anyway, I turned up this day to do my work with the boys, and the teacher had this great idea, which initially I was like, oh my God, you're kidding. The teacher decided, oh, you're here for half an hour with this little guy, and then you're here for half an hour with this little guy. Why don't you take both of them for the whole hour? And I was like, oh man, no. And she goes, oh, that'll just be, then you've done your hour, you got the two boys. And that was pretty full on. Anyway, okay, I'll take both of them. And they were at completely different ends of the spectrum from each other. The little intelligent boy, he couldn't kick a ball. He didn't like to be in sports because he wasn't good at it. And the other guy was totally the sporty guy, and he didn't want to do any maths or English. He didn't want to do any of the schoolwork because he wasn't good at that. And they really didn't like each other because they triggered each other. They were these opposites in a way, and each was so judgmental of the other. I sat between them because I couldn't sit them together. And they were just playing up, and we couldn't even get to do any work because they were just judging each other. Oh, you're a little dork and you don't, yeah, but you're so dumb and you don't know how to do that. And I just listened to them for a little bit, and then I came in with my energy a little bit stronger, and I went, hey, can you guys hear yourselves? And I said, okay, one of yous talk at once. Okay, the little intelligent guy, tell me, what's your thing? What's happening here? We could be friends. This could be a really nice time to share and to hang out and to do some stuff. And they went both of them off again. I'm like, no, one at a time. Okay, you tell me your thing. And he just talked about what he thought of the other fella. Okay, that's enough. Now you tell me your thing. And you just talked about what he thought about him. Okay, you've both talked about what you think about each other. Now I had to quieten them down, and they had to stop. And I said to them, okay, now I want you each to say what you're good at. Okay, you've told me about the other person and what you think they're not good at. And now I want each of you to share what you are good at. And of course, they love doing that. And so the little intelligent guy, well, I'm good at everything in school, and maths and English and reading, and good at all my schoolwork. And, okay, now it's the other guy's turn. I'm good at sports. I'm top in this team, and I'm in this athletics. And anyway, he did his big sharing about all the stuff he was good at. And I am so cold. I hope my lips are not going blue. It's really cool out here. Anyway, okay. So did you hear that? Did you hear what this guy's good at? And did you hear what this guy's good at? It's different, right? So what you're good at, he's not good at. And then what you're good at, he's not good at. So what can we do here to help each other? Because you'd like to be a little bit better at that. And it came out, the little intelligent guy, if he went out in the yard and he was trying to kick a ball, he'd get teased and he'd get picked on, and nobody would let him play, and he was very ostracized, he was very pushed aside. So it came out, he started to share that. Yeah, if I go out there, nobody likes me and they won't let me play. And the other boy pipes up and he goes, oh, I know what we could do. You could come out with me and I can show you, and you can do some kicking of the ball with me. And it sparked up, the little intelligent guy. Then I said, okay, you know that he's good at that, so are you going to try that in the lunchtime? Are you going to get together and go out in the playground and do some kicking of the ball? And he said, yep. He wasn't very social, the little intelligent guy. Is there anything you can help this guy with? What is it that you could share with him? Is there some way you could show him? Because you know how to do this maths and these spellings. Obviously it's easy for you. Is there a way that's really easy for you? Can you share something? And he's, oh yeah. And he started to share some of the basic stuff with his maths and just how he sees it and how he learns it. And because they're both around the same age, the sporty guy seemed to really relate with how the little guy was sharing about the maths. He started to just pick up some things. So he's, okay, I can show you some of that. And then apparently they did. We went back to the classroom and I let the teacher know it was pretty horrendous initially, having both of them. It took us a few weeks to get to this. He didn't harmonise immediately. The moment I just shared with you was the moment we got to where we started to communicate and to really share some stuff with each other. But before that, there was a lot of battling, you could imagine, and a lot of disharmony to get to that point. But this was the point anyway. The teachers, oh, okay. She took note, she watched them in the playground, and she let me know that he did. The sporty guy took the other little guy under his wing, and he stopped the others because he had a lot of respect in the playground with his sports and his abilities, so a lot of the other kids looked up to him. And he took this little guy under his wing and had him out there, and he was having a lot of fun. The teacher said, oh, it was amazing. He was having so much fun, and he was kicking the ball. He couldn't do it really well, but the sporty guy was encouraging him. He was getting his friends to come in and be with him. I think right there we had some solution to our socialising, so that was really cool. I had them for about 6 or 8 months, I think, both of them. They'd rush into our session together eventually, and in our session it was a lot about the little bright fellow sharing maths, encouraging and doing spelling with the sporty guy. They enjoyed that, and it turned out that they didn't live too far from each other, and they started to hang out in the afternoons after school, and they became friends. I also heard from the teacher too, the sporty guy, his grades started to come up. He started to be more interested in the classroom. He was doing his maths and his English, and he was becoming more involved and enjoying that more in the classroom. And the little intelligent guy, he was happier. He was more social with his friend and with the other children. He'd be out playing sports. I think he even did in that time some of their in-school little athletics stuff, and he participated in that quite happily. Before he just wouldn't, and he'd have all these tantrums, and so they couldn't get him near it. That was just a really cool experience. It was very feisty and it was very challenging to work with them, and it did take that long. It did take quite a length of time to get them harmonised and to get them to be in the same space and to start communicating more effectively with each other. It's such great learning and such great insight as well. Working with kids to hold a non-judgmental space, to not have any judgment at all, because as I experienced with these two, they had so much judgment with each other and about themselves as well. There was lots of different things that came out. We didn't know about that kind of bullying or ostracising, pushing out of playing with other children. We didn't really know about that. Lots of little things came out that was very helpful. And the other boy, just some encouragement from his peers that he can do this schoolwork, that he can do that, and he just had to spend a little time with that and be okay to learn it. A lot about him dropping the judgment on himself. Lots of really cool stuff working with the kids, lots of great learning, and mostly it's about holding that space. And the biggest thing for me initially to even interface with these kids and to build some rapport and to have some influence on them, it's to give them a different experience, to respond differently, because it's so easy when they push your buttons, and they're good at it. Particularly when you get the children with strong behavioural issues. We want to help them and we want to sort them out, but it's really about creating the space for them to come into that themselves, and just giving them a different experience. Responding differently to them can really get their attention and create some shifts. So that was a lot of fun. Anyway, I'm really cold now. I put on my warmer top, but it's very cool. And it didn't pour on me, so that was good. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.